In the Cleveland City School Board of Education meeting will now come to order. If you will stay seated for a second, we'll do a moment of silence and then we'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to summer, everybody. I want to read a couple statements, but before I do, I want to welcome Lynn Voles, Executive Director of BCPF. As always, she's a faithful attender, and we appreciate all you do for our schools. Chairman for Cleveland City Schools Board of Education, I'm committed to running an orderly meeting and an efficient meeting, treating everyone with respect. Board members will be provided equal voice for all matters, and they should communicate through the Director of Schools for addressing his staff. A couple reminders for parents and the community. Board of Education policies can be found on the clevelandschools.org website. When there, click District, Board of Directors, and select Board Policies. Our meetings are not public forum. However, the board has made accommodations for a city resident, a Cleveland City Schools employee, or a parent guardian of a Cleveland City Schools student to address the board via School Policy 1.404, which includes two options along with the requirements listed. Those options being appearing before the board via pre-meeting requests or addressing the board on agenda items via same-day requests. All right, so do we have any public comments?
We do not.
We don't have any public comments, so I want to ask the board if there's anything on the consent agenda that you would like to be removed and discussed. So no items have been communicated, so I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as appears on in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
Consent agenda has been second, so I'd like to do a roll call.
Motion to approve consent agenda. Matt?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
Peggy?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
And Carolyn is absent. It passes.
Thank you. All right, the first item on our regular agenda is the director's update. And before we let him talk, I want to say congratulations to Dr. Elliott for accepting the role of Director of Schools. And we are so happy that you're here with us, and welcome to your first meeting.
Yes, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Excited to be a part of this team right here, and looking forward to what we have planned and talking more about plans in the future. But today, just wanted to give a quick update of what's been going on recently, just around the district and the month in review since the last board meeting. And it's hard to believe that since the last board meeting, we celebrated a lot of end of the year activities. We had a wonderful graduation over at Cleveland High School Arena in the class of 24, and congratulations to all the people who helped make that happen as well along the way. Also on May 16th, we had the honor at Yates Primary to recognize Miss Carolyn Ingram, one of our own board members here, and the legacy she has at Yates is unmeasurable to anything else. So we're glad to be able to recognize her and all her years of service at Yates Primary. Of course, at the end of the year, we always have so many fantastic plays and concerts and arts programs, and I just wanted to mention that because we're a fabulous system, and a lot of great dedication and time, and a lot of energy goes into bringing those end of the year programs together. And I thank the students for their dedication, but also our staff members who pull those together. End of the year awards programs, it's always wonderful at the end of the year to honor those academic achievements, and that was an amazing time. As far as sports are concerned, we had a lot of spring sports celebrations from district to regional and sectional play, and then also at state track, we had three big award winners. Sawyer Boyd got second place along with Owen Clemens, and Sharice Ryan had 8th place. So we're proud of all our athletes, and hats off to our state track award winners this year. Congratulations to another athlete over at Cleveland High School. Miss Lauren Hurst was named and went out to Colorado to participate in the USA Women's U17 national team. So that's exciting. And then we have hired a new assistant principal at Candies Creek, Cherokee, and that is Mr. Ryan Swartzentruber. Mr. Ryan Swartzentruber comes from Cleveland Middle, has served there as a teacher and also a support staff member with the admin team over there. And so he's had some good experience at Cleveland Middle, and I think he's going to be welcomed nicely at Candies Creek. So just a few updates from my perspective of what I've been involved in since last month. Mr. Kaiser and I went to a TOSS session back on May 14th to hear all about the legislative updates that have happened in the spring. And with that, it's going to come some updates to our policies as we move forward later in the summer. May 21st, I had the privilege of attending with several of you at Rotary, along with Mr. Kaiser. Mr. Kaiser and I presented about Cleveland City Schools, and that was an enjoyable event, and thank you all for that invitation to be there. Been involved in a lot of end of the school year site visits, and 2 weeks ago, the last week of May, our administrative team gathered together and we had our own PD sessions, professional development, before people start taking their vacations. And our focus was on evaluation systems, behavior and mental health, and again, those legislative updates so we could stay on top of that. On May 30th, our teachers, many teachers gathered over at Lee for a trauma-informed summit. You have some information here that we'll talk about in a few minutes when Dr. Kars presents to us. And then this month and next month, we'll be making the transition move to 775 Raider Drive, our CCS central support. And we are going to have different departments moving in a staggered session so we can make sure everybody's set up and settled. So by the end of June, we'll have the academics team and the student information team over there. And then the week of July 8th, our student services and child nutrition team will be making the transition. Later in July, we'll have our business, and at the end of the summer, our human resources team will be moving over. And hopefully then we'll be all set so that when August rolls around and the new school year is, we'll all be together in that one area. So we're looking forward to that. Earlier today, we attended a city council meeting. Several of you were with us and had the opportunity, along with Mr. Lay and Mr. Tucker, and Hal spoke some as well, Taylor. And we were able to go and request to start looking for land for a new school in the area, in the city of Cleveland. So we met with them and shared our desires and the need for that based off of our enrollment numbers, also our growth and a lot of our intervention programs and specialty areas. And with that, as we completed that presentation today, it went really well. I enjoyed being there with our city council. The next step is for us to come together with the board and city council members to have a session to talk about next steps. So we'll be working together with the city council and Mr. Favas to get something scheduled in the near future for us to sit down and have future conversations. And the last thing on here, I'd just like to say a special thank you to Mr. Kaiser for his leadership during the interim period and for his service as interim director of schools. I appreciate all his direction and leadership during that period, and look forward to continue working with him as we move forward with Cleveland City Schools. The last piece I have to share with you are just some of the upcoming dates for our board to consider. And coming at the end of July, we do have, or July 19th and 20th, the TSBA Summer Law Conference. And then a lot of the beginning of the year dates that are on here are available here with convocation and teachers coming back with staff on July the 29th and kicking off a new school year. We're looking at and about to zero in on August 5th at 4 p.m. if everybody is okay with that time for a ribbon cutting event prior to that evening school board meeting. And then we can have an open house period between 4 and 5:30 for guests who want to come come to the building. That is my update.
Thank you, Dr. Elliott. All right. Next on the agenda, we have Spotlight, and I'll turn it right back over to you.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Adam Moss is here tonight, and I asked Mr. Moss to come and share. Mr. Moss is our coordinator of all our summer academic programs and intervention programs, even in the school year as well. And 3 years ago, we added this position and because of the need for making sure our students are accounted for, and we're providing the services for intervention in the best way possible. And I asked Mr. Moss to come, and let's just spotlight our staff who are spending their summer in our school buildings and to highlight a little bit about what's going on in our summer program. So, Mr. Moss.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invitation to be here and share with you all the wonderful things that are happening at Yates Primary, Cleveland Middle School, and Cleveland High School over the month of June. You know, school may be out for the year, but summer is in full swing. We have, of course, our traditional credit recovery happening at Cleveland High School. Mr. Eric Blackburn, one of our fabulous science teachers, is leading that summer program over there. We have 12 summer staff. We have SPED support, ESL support, a full-time SRO, and a couple hundred students who are over there working very hard, including the next slide, rising ninth graders who are there earning credits, credit acceleration, not credit recovery. We targeted students who were either failing or nearly failing their core subjects in the 8th grade semesters and offered to them a chance to come and learn the building, the teachers, build relationships, and get a head start on their credits. Through this program, they're earning 2 graduation requirements of wellness and fine arts, and they're also receiving 2 elective credits in foundational courses for their freshman year in English 1 and Algebra 1 foundational support courses. We have about 50 students taking advantage of that opportunity. Dr. Jessica Bigham is with me today. She is leading our program at the Yates Primary. We had 188 as of today. The kids keep wanting to come. The parents want them to be here, and it's a ton of fun. Would you like to say something about your program, Dr. Bigham?
Yes. First off, just thank you for the opportunity to lead this program. It's really been a blast. I'm at Mayfield every day, so my favorite thing about this has been working with new teachers that I've met from across the district. I mean, they're not new, but I'm new to them, new faces to me. And then all the students. I have a new best friend from Stewart. His name is Prince. We're besties, okay? And also just the parents. The parents have been so thankful for this opportunity that their kids have somewhere to go that's safe and fun, as well as, we're working on academics, working on deficits and gaps in foundational literacy skills in the K2 area, and then even doing some math. And so we have some rock star teachers who are really chugging along with that. We still have 11 days of camp. We're going to have some fun stuff. We've had some really cool visitors from the Creative Discovery Museum, from the aquarium, from some science man from Nashville who taught the kids how to make their own rubber bouncy balls, and that was really fun. That was really cool. They were really proud of those. And somebody gave me a pink glittery one, which was my favorite. So everything's good. Adam, is there anything specific?
I think we definitely want to highlight that we have 12 summer classrooms. Each teacher has an assistant. We have SPED support, we have STEM teachers, a full-time counselor, a full-time nurse, and an SRO to make sure we're meeting the students' needs all around.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and it's been fun.
Yeah. The next couple slides have some pictures. You can see some of the fun they're having while they are working very hard. The next one.
So they're making word patterns with phonics is what I'm trying to say there.
We wanted to feel like summer camp, not summer school, so they're getting their phonics through hands-on engaging opportunities. And of course, the STEM integration is such a big part of our district's core beliefs. So even down to the K2 level, really highlighting that at the same time. At the middle school, Mr. Casey Price couldn't be here. He is traveling to the AP's conference right now. But we have 384, I think it's more like 395 after today, because again, they keep wanting to show up, and we're not going to say no as long as we have a spot for them. We have plenty of classrooms, SPED support, counselor, STEM, SRO, nurse, all the bells and whistles. And we have a little more than 300 showing up every day over the course of the first couple of weeks. On the next couple of slides, we'll see some images. Our 7th, 8th grade team has really bought into our space race theme, and they have gone full-fledged in every lesson of every unit. They have fully embraced the missions and the shuttles, and it's really cool. If you drive by the Cleveland Middle School parking lot right now, you will see 2-scale drawings using sidewalk chalk in the parking lot of the sun and proportional of the solar system, where they did the math to calculate it out and measured everything and drew it out. You can see they are working heavy in academics. We're working on small groups, working in partners. On the next slide, we have even more of that with our wonderful teachers. In the top center is Ms. Erin Lefevre. She is one of our ESL coaches at the high school, and she is working with a section of EL newcomers. We have highlighted this group for several years now, and we have students who are within their first or second year of being in the country, who have a very targeted academic program for the summer. We have 8 certified ESL teachers working with them. We have about 65 students enrolled, and several of them, like Erin, are bilingual, so they are teaching in both languages back and forth to help them move forward in their progression. And it's not just work. We have lots of fun. The state requires us to do physical activity, and we make it as fun as we can. You see the science guy there on the right, team time on the left, lots of really cool, engaging, interactive stuff. And there's the Star Lab. The Discovery Museum came over and did that for us as well. We have plenty of certified teachers. Every teacher has an assistant, low ratio. We've targeted our EL newcomers. Every site has a nurse, counselor, and SRO, STEM recess, and plenty of fun. This is your official invitation. If you have not heard it yet or felt it yet, please come. We are there. We would love to see you. The teachers would love to see you. My email is easy to find. Andrea can give you my cell phone. Anytime, Monday through Thursday, the next couple of weeks, please come. Jamie Corwin from TDOE is coming Wednesday afternoon. If you want to overlap with her, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'd love to have you anytime. You can come on out. Thanks so much.
Yes, you wait a minute. Can you schedule time for the board members to go?
We'll coordinate that.
Did board members have any questions or comments you want to?
Did we do this same program last year?
This is our, fourth year doing this version of it. Cleveland City Schools has always been proactive and has had summer programs happening way before this, through the Read to Be Ready program, through Cleveland Middle School's 4Cs program. And then, coming back from COVID, the state decided to get involved and give us funding to do a structure to get the academics the way they wanted us to do it. So we're in our 3rd year of the iteration, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Good. Have you done some statistics to see how it's helped the kids when school starts in the fall? That's made a difference with them?
Yeah, we have partnered with the Terra Research Organization to get both a qualitative and quantitative feedback. We have seen, and it won't surprise you, the students who come most consistently and come the entire program see the biggest results into the fall. So we've taken some steps to hopefully maintain and increase the amount of students who are coming consistently, starting with our staffing. We have fabulous staff who are committed to working the entire summer, so there aren't transitions throughout where we lose kids along the way. It's been a really, really positive thing.
That's really good. When you get that, could you share that with us?
Absolutely.
The difference it's made for these students. That's really good.
Yeah, thank you. What else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll just say thank you to you both for your leadership in this area, and then if you don't mind communicating our thanks to the team that makes it possible. So we're very appreciative of the work you guys are doing.
Thank you. We'll do that, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Moss.
Dr. Elliott.
Appreciate it. I'd just like to say it's really energizing when you go. I went over to Yates the other day, and the science gentleman from Nashville was there making those rubber balls, and then within 5 minutes they had taken sand and had formed it into one of the bouncy balls. And those kids, of course, once the bouncy balls were made, you can imagine the fun that they were having. So
Yeah.
hopefully these fun activities like this are going to keep the students coming, so that when they're doing something that maybe not quite as fun, but they're learning at the same time. So that was really good.
I don't know, Dr. Elliott, based upon your expressions there, you enjoyed it too.
I did. It was really fun just to be they were in the Yates Primary Gym, and you can imagine on that carpeted floor, and then the bouncy balls out there. So it was fun.
All right, next on the agenda, we have position job description.
All right, I'll take that one. As we move forward, I just wanted to bring a couple of job descriptions for your approval tonight as we look to making a couple of adjustments here at our office. And one of those is moving forward, I am going to eliminate or propose to eliminate the Chief of Staff position. I was serving in that, and I believe that some of those responsibilities I will be able to continue to do and be available to our staff into our leadership team, so I want to continue to do that. With that, though, we'll need somebody to be available as second in command at times when I'm not here, maybe away at a meeting of some sort or away for the day. And in that case, we'll need to have somebody that is named as an assistant to the director of schools. And also, though, to carry on majority of the their job description currently. And so this assistant director of schools job description highlights that. It maintains a lot of the duties related to human resources director. And so the human resources director would continue many of the same duties there, but also take on some assistance when needed as an assistant director of schools, second in command. So there's a job description there related to that. And then human resources specialist, we have talked about this for a few months now of the need as we continue to grow our staff and have the high demand. I know at Rotary even we've had, when I'm out at other places, I've had questions about what are you going to do to recruit and develop and retain high quality staff. And so one of the things we would need to do is, I believe, add a human resources specialist. Part of that would be some of the paperwork and the traditional things that come with hiring staff and to keep them, but also a vision to develop and to provide high quality trainings and mentorships for especially our early hirees along for the first, second, and third year as they're employed here, but also a vision to provide additional opportunities for grow your own, opportunities for staff members. So the proposal here is to do this. By doing this and eliminating the chief of staff position, that is a plus on our balance of our budget at the district administrative level. And so this would be a cost savings in the net there. So my proposal today is to bring this for an approval for these two job descriptions.
So we have a recommendation from the director of schools to embrace these two job descriptions provided in your packet. I'd like to entertain a motion for that.
I'll move.
Do we have a second?
Can I?
We'll comment and question after. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Do we have any comments or questions?
Yeah, as I read through those, there's a lot of emphasis, particularly assistant director of schools, with having a teacher license and that area. Does that limit the pool of people that you might be able to identify to help in that role? Similar with the HR office, is that at this level, do they need to be recently in a classroom in essence or maintain those licensures?
No, not necessarily. I do think there is a lot of pieces of evaluation pieces and terminologies as far as school board policies that a person who is familiar with teaching profession, that's very advantageous in that role. So I would say that there is an important piece to that for consideration. And also, I think we have, knowing that, we have individual who has shown experience in HR that also could handle, I think, the assistant director of schools currently on our staff. And if this were approved, I think that would be where we would go. And then we would post the human resources specialist position for someone beyond that. So is your question about the assistant director of schools or the human resources specialist?
Well, I think both of them. It's just me, I find those as more an administrative role at this high level, making sure people are doing what they need to be doing and they're being benefited the way they need to be benefited and questions are being answered. And so, but when we've written them or apply them the way that you've written them, right, whether it be this particular hire or another hire, you basically limited it to somebody that works in a school system. Sure. There may not be any other candidates other than shopping from here or shopping from Bradley or an outside school.
Right. Well, we can definitely, at the pleasure of the board, make adjustments to those qualifications if you would like to make those recommendations.
Did I understand that when you were describing the human resource specialist, you said they would, a lot of their responsibility would be with developing professional development for teachers?
It would be a balance. There would be some definitely HR business definitely have to be a part of it. I think working with our other team, our administrative team who provide professional development, they would be helping coordinate and responsible for the big picture of that. I would like for them to do that because, again, what onboarding and then beyond new teacher trainings and other topics that they need to know about and learn about throughout, especially their first 3 years, but also beyond that. So it would be, it'll take a unique individual to be able to balance both the office resources, but also the benefit of delivering and coordinating opportunities for professional development.
I think that would be a tremendous benefit to have somebody with the teaching experience to be able to understand that component of it as you described it. I think that would definitely be beneficial. And also the unique world of education and how there's some regulations and things that involve employment that I think some experience as a teacher, or at least in the education system, would be beneficial.
Dr. Elliott, have you seen this position in other systems?
Systems who are definitely larger have other positions that take care, larger, definitely HR departments, depending on the size of the school system, yes.
So you've heard positive things from them, that it really is very helpful?
Yeah, just for the survival of keeping things moving, yes, for that. So the question though is just the duties that you want to assign to another person in this department. And that's what this job description outlines.
I have a question. So do I understand right? You're eliminating the chief of staff position?
Yes.
But you're not just renaming it.
No, it would still be, a lot of the duties would still be related to human resources director for the assistant director of schools, with some duties when called upon to take on to help out when I would need that assistance.
Roughly the cost savings, just I don't know exactly, just a rough estimate.
Yeah, probably around $30,000.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second. In light of the discussion, is it your pleasure to talk about these individually and approve them individually, or do you want to continue as the motion on the floor? That would be up to the one that submitted the motion and then the second. And that person was Krista, and the second was Matt. Okay. What is your pleasure?
I'm fine with keeping it with the original motion.
Okay.
I think I'm getting outweighed on this one, but my only concern in this was limiting that scope. I think that you can apply that same rule regardless of whether you put it as a requirement or not. But I do think it limits the scope of the candidates to those, which means we have to fill another position when we pop the other one up. So my suggestion was essentially to eliminate some of that, but whatever. I think I'm talking to myself on this point, so that's fine.
Okay. So we have a motion. It's been seconded.
Motion to approve the position and job descriptions. Andy?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
Peggy?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Carolyn is absent. Nate Tucker?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
It passes.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2025 funding increases.
Okay. So in the month of May, we had a new report that came from the state, and I want to say a special shout out to Cindy Guerin and the business team, along with our data team, Mr. Cars and Christy Duncan, and the ESL teachers. They did a lot of work on entering a lot of data along the way, and especially the second semester. And because of that, we had an increase in funding with the TISA formula. And with that, then, we are proposing that some of that money go back into the academic world for our iReady academic online program that we've been paying for the last few years. It's a big chunk of money to keep that digital platform going that shows us the 3 benchmark points of growth each year that we use, our students use, and our teachers have requested that over the years, the toolbox that goes along with that. Along with that, positions that after we have received input along the way with the budget development, some that did not make the cut or on the original budget are listed here. And these are the ones that we're proposing with this approval. A behavior support interventionist, which is one that was funded through ESSER before, that didn't make the cut prior. A PE teacher at Cleveland High School. This position will allow for additional elective blocks of classes and some flexibility in the high school scheduling, and that's a request from them. Cleveland High School CMS counselor, a vision for this is for us we need to continue to focus on ACT prep and bringing our ACT scores up in Cleveland City Schools. And so have a proposal from Cleveland High School and Cleveland Middle School to have a position that focuses specifically on offering ACT prep and boot camps in classes with a goal to bring those scores up in the next near future, for sure. 2 special ed teacher assistants. Earlier we added a couple of special ed teachers, one at Candies Creek and one at Stewart. So this will provide them with an assistant in those classrooms where we're adding the teachers. A social worker, if you remember, we had to cut some of those social workers out of the budget before, so this would add one more back in. And then we continue to have growing needs in the operations department, maintenance worker to help out in that world, and so this would add that. So with that increase, here's the adjustment to that for that budget increase for the fiscal year 24-25.
Okay. So we have questions for Dr. Ellett?
Do we have the funds for that? Are we okay funding wise?
Yes. Yes, and that will give us some funds available. We didn't want to allocate all of that, so that as we come back in the early back-to-school period of time, if we see a growth teacher need or something of that nature, we have a reserve there in case we need to come back and say, hey, we had a need for an additional teacher somewhere, so there's additional money left there.
That's
for
good.
that.
Okay.
I had a couple questions for the iReady part. That dollar amount, is that covering what we already spent, or is that adding additional functionality? I wasn't quite sure.
We have used for K-8, we've used iReady for several years now, and so this is just helping us out to continue to be able to keep that going.
Okay. And then with 7 positions, does that take us to 29 for this year?
I'd have to refer to Mr. Kaiser maybe about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the proposed budget increase that we're talking about is $591,047. So does that mean that's what we're voting on, that dollar amount right there, even though in your spreadsheet it has the others?
Well, it is actually $726,263, and then so what you're doing is the proposed budget increase are those items that I mentioned to you, plus the funds available that would be left is at 136. I can't read the number. 135,260. So it's a total of 726,000.
So are you coming back if a new position is needed to ask for that money to be spent, the funds available?
Yes, we would come back as soon as we could at the early onset of the school year as we analyze back to school numbers, and that would give us some opportunity there.
That's what I thought. I just didn't want to make an assumption.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Where will the social worker be located?
We have not
Is that a
determined that
specific
yet.
school?
Yes, we would believe that it'd be best to be housed at a school or an itinerant between 2 schools of some sort, but we have not determined exactly which schools. We do have one current social worker that remained, and then this would be the second social worker. So we will be meeting once that individual is hired, and then meeting with them to come up with a plan for the year.
Okay. Are these needs a result of our increase in the number of students we have?
Well, some of it's because of the increase of like the special ed positions that we've added, and also at the high school, a need to balance that as far as our larger numbers in PE. Yes, for sure, the classroom support, that is that. Obviously, the operations and general maintenance, there continues to be growing need in the facilities area. So some of that is based off of growth for sure, and then also some of the needs, not only growth, but just the needs of our students and what we're seeing. But these positions we would be asking to be in the schools and being present with our teachers and support and our students.
And after this summer, we're probably expecting even more students in the fall.
Yes, that's our anticipation, and that's what we shared today with our city council earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right, so we have a proposal for the 2024-25 TISA funding increase. I'd like to entertain a motion for that.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a first and a second. I'd like to call, roll call, please.
Motion to approve the 24-25 TISA increase. Nate?
Yes?
Krista?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Carolyn is absent. Peggy?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have parental leave presentation.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Kaiser if he'll share this.
You were correct. That is 29 new positions, 20 of which are brand new, 9 of which were ESSER funded previously.
Okay.
So that's kind of the breakdown there on the spots.
Thank you.
So we started discussing this, I guess, even before the March retreat. We asked, I was kind of charged with, is it possible for us to provide parental leave to our employees that are not currently covered under state law? As you're aware, last year, a state law passed that provided parental leave to all employees that have to have a license according to the state law to fill their position. So that covers people like bus drivers, but it's a strange combination of both certified employees and non-certified employees. It covers people like bus drivers, covers teachers, doesn't cover people like the data department, doesn't cover people like the business department, it wouldn't cover the director of schools. So those people are not eligible under state law for this parental leave. So we have done some work on this and have kind of some recommendations for you tonight. What we would have to do, I think the major thing for you to consider is the budgetary impact, and we'll talk about that first. So we would have to pass that, of course, and Cindy can weigh in on that if you have any questions. And then we will have to revise our policy and add some language there to provide for parental leave. So if you would, Cody, go to the next slide. So these were numbers I think that you were given early on. We discussed this in March. Since then, of course, we've added a pay increase, so actually it would be a little bit more expensive than this. The 5% would be applied here. So this kind of shows you what the total cost would be per position. Obviously, it depends largely on where the individual is at in our organization. So if it were to be an AOB administrator that was certified, it could be a little over $17,000. You can see kind of how it breaks down from there. AOB classified staff would be about $8,900, probably closer to $9,000. Operations would be about $75,000. Administrative assistant at the school level would be about $68,000, and then a teacher assistant would be a little over $65,000. If you're providing them, that's how much it would cost to provide them 30 days of parental leave. The thing to remember, and as Chuck Cagle told me at least 5 times while I had him on the phone, remind the board, Cleveland City Schools would be footing the bill for this. Yes. So everybody that's covered under the state leave for state under the state law, we get reimbursed for those individuals, and there's a lot of fun that paperwork that Cindy and her team, I guess really Cindy, has to do to get that reimbursement. But these people would not be eligible for reimbursement, so this would be something that we would be paying out of our Cleveland City Schools budget. Any questions about funding before we go to the next slide? Cindy or I, either one can answer. Yes, sir.
So it sounds like that there should be an allocation, an allotment in the budget for, say, let's assume 5-6 people during the school year.
At least 5 or 6. I mean, there's really no way to know on a given year how many people it might be, or what positions they might be. I think Cindy, you have kind of talked about how to set aside some funds for that. Do you want to? You can share from back there if you want, or you can come up here and share.
So are the funds already? Well, no, they wouldn't be because
no, we'd have to allocate it, but we do have a way to do that.
Yeah, so I had budgeted a little bit more in the grow your own line item.
Okay.
And we would actually need, so we would pull from there, as well as we could pull from the additional funding that we received from TSED that we hadn't budgeted anywhere else yet.
So is my assumption a little low? I guess maybe
on number of people.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to say. It might be 2.
Right.
It might be 2 assistants, and it doesn't cost you that much, but it could be 4 or 5 people that cost you a little more. It's just depends on the year.
Right.
I can tell you right now, we'll probably have at least 3 or 4 teacher assistants because they've already asked for leave, not this kind of leave, but they've already asked for leave from their positions because they are going to have children.
Why are they not eligible for reimbursement? Are they eventually eligible, or is
No,
this
they're not covered under state law. State law their position is not covered under state law. So the way the law is written, the legislators did not provide funding for those positions to receive parental leave, and so they wrote it a certain way.
That sounds like something we need to ask them to think about and consider.
You can always ask them to consider it.
Yeah.
There are lots of changes to this law I'd ask them to consider. It's kind of a wild one.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen?
So I was just curious whether there was any other discussion from other districts that have interest in the legislation being changed. Is there any kind of discussion about that as a possibility?
I really think that this discussion kind of got dampened with all the discussion around vouchers and all those kind of things. I think that really became everybody's focus during this legislative session, and so I don't think that some of these kind of got brought back up. There was considerable discussion around this for a while, and then it kind of took a back seat. I think there could be a potential that it will be brought back up, but I don't think anybody had this on their radar as it was something that was going to pass. It kind of came out of the blue, and it was on the radar and written quickly, and so I do think there is some potential for some of the challenges that it has created to be addressed, but there's no guarantees it'll get picked back up. I really think the biggest piece was it just kind of got a back seat to all the other things that were going on in the last legislative session.
I would say, it's not a question, this is a comment. I think this is important, and if we had 10 people, you're looking at $170,000 out of a $68 million budget. That's a fraction of a percentage, and what a great opportunity to create some equity in our staff. I think this would be a great benefit for our staff.
I will tell you that there are districts that have approached this every way under the sun as far as this side of things. There are people that immediately extended it to every employee, as we're talking about doing. There are people that have we're just going to follow the state law and those requirements, and that's all we're going to talk about. So there are districts across the state that are doing different things with this. If you would, if you can go to the next slide. We did have a few recommendations, and I've kind of covered these with you. As you know, the state law it's really wide open on how this can be taken, which has created some difficulties that are some of the pieces that I talked about potentially being addressed. Some recommendations that I have for you and language that I would ask you to consider as you're adopting this. First would be their bullet 2. I would recommend that the employee be required to take the paid leave at the birth of the child, not whenever they wish within the first year. That would be upon the birth of the child or the formal adoption of the child. They would be paid for those next 30 days. The way the state law is written, that is not required. So they have the first year of the life of the child to take their leave. So they could say, we're not going to take it now, and then they can take every Friday for the last 3 months of school if they wish. It doesn't create a very good situation for us to be able to fill their positions when they are away. So that would be one recommendation I would ask you to consider. Second would be to consider requiring that they work in Cleveland City Schools for 1 year prior to receiving this leave. It's my experience that a lot of times an employee may take this leave and not return. So if you have a person who has not worked for us a year, they may take their 30 days of leave and then the other leaves they're entitled to and not ever work for us again. That's certainly a possibility. The way the current state law is written, they have to have worked in any school system in the state of Tennessee the year prior to be eligible. I think in keeping with this being a great benefit for Cleveland City Schools employees, we want to consider that recommendation. Obviously, appropriate documentation for childbirth or adoption or other issues must be provided. And then we have done item 5, which was to take this language through Chuck Cagle before we finalize it into board policy. So if you'll roll to the next slide, this is the recommended language that we'll obviously discuss later as we talk about the policy recommendation. Chuck has approved this. This would slide into a section below the approved policy, or what the approved policy currently has around the state law. It would be a section below that which would address parental leave for those that are not covered under the current state law. Questions? Yes.
So this may, I don't know if this is the time to ask this or when we talk about the policy, but at some point I thought you also recommended that we state in the policy that those days be taken consecutively.
So that's the last line there kind of covers that. Leave shall run concurrently with FMLA, so it's not, doesn't extend that. And then we do have in there additional 6 weeks. Well, maybe I had it on the recommendation, maybe I didn't stick it in the words. Yeah, to be the first 30 days of, yeah, we can go back and add that. Or we can add that in procedure as well.
Is that the second to last sentence?
Yeah, the paid leave shall be taken.
Yeah, it is in there. I
Yeah.
thought I had that in there somewhere. Yeah.
Is the term stillbirth defined or clarified somewhere in the statute?
Yes, and it's messy and ugly, and I hope we never have to deal with it. But yes, it is well defined, and it is it's defined in state law, and we will still use that same definition. But I hope we don't have to get into ever denying because it doesn't meet the definition. Yeah, but it is what it is defined. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, Dr. Elliott, are you submitting this as a formal recommendation?
Yes, I recommend that we move forward with this recommendation as presented.
So we have a recommendation for the parental leave policy, or funding rather, I'm sorry. We'll talk about the policy later. So is there, I'd like to entertain a motion for that. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any questions or comments? I'd like to do a roll call.
Motion to approve the funding for parental leave. Andy?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Peggy?
Yes.
Carolyn is absent. Jody?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. We have the next agenda item being the first reading of policies. So which one of you are doing that? Is that you, Matt? Or okay, so Matt will be handling it during this meeting.
Which one do you have up there? Do you want to just deal with family medical leave since we already did that? And that is our proposal with the imputed language we just discussed. Does anyone have any further questions, or do we need to vote on that since we've already?
We can do them all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions further about that? And the second policy that we have is the acquired immunodeficiency. Essentially here there was a administrative procedure that we have in place, and this just conforms to it by adding the language referencing back to those administrative procedures. Any questions about that?
Okay, so we have first reading of policies for policy 5305 and policy 6404. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept these as presented.
So move.
Have a first, and we have a second? Have a second. So we have a first and a second. Are there any comments or questions before we do a roll call? Okay, we'll do roll call.
Motion to approve first reading of policy 5305 and 6404. Peggy?
Yes.
Krista?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes?
Andy?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And Carolyn is absent. It passes.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is strategic plan focus. Let's turn it over to Dr. Elliott.
All right, we have two areas we wanted to highlight tonight and focus on, and that first one is elementary highlights, especially focused on the end of the year and some other things happening in the elementary world. So Ms. Bender is coming to present the first presentation.
Hello, thank you for letting me come and share the wonderful things that are happening in the elementary world. So we will just show you a little bit. Wanted to talk just a little bit about ELA. As you know, a few years ago we adopted a high quality instructional materials, and so we continue to see growth in kindergarten, first and second grade in overall reading, letter sounds, phoneme segments, and word reading fluency. We really feel like this is because of the really strong foundational skills part that we have in our CKLA Amplify program. That program has, for kindergarten, first and second grade, has an hour of skills instruction and then an hour of knowledge instruction. So we continue to see growth there, and we're really excited about that. We also are continuing to see growth in our benchmark data according to iReady. You all talked about it just a little bit earlier about funding that, and we use that 3 times a year to see growth of students. If you look on the left side there, that's a student and that's a teacher. What they're doing there, this is a kindergarten class, and that's called chaining. And so CKLA is a sounds first approach. And so they learn the individual sounds, then they start putting them together. And in this chaining activity, you see a student that's holding up a P, a student that's holding up the letter I, and a student that's holding up the letter N. They blend all those sounds together, and then they make the word pen. And then she would say, for example, now I want to change one letter to make the word pit. What letter would it be? And the students identify that. The student that's holding the T would come up, and then the student that holds the N would sit down. There's a lot of gross and fine motor activity that goes along with this lesson, so it keeps the students engaged. And chaining's been very successful, and we feel like it's really increasing our reading. As a grandparent, I have a granddaughter that's in kindergarten, and what she was reading to me at the end of the year this year was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it, and she's so proud of herself, so that's good stuff. The other picture, CKLA also has a section in knowledge, and this was the human body. They were talking about the human body. This was a 3rd grade project, and you can see they were doing the skeletal system and the muscular system, and they read about it, researched it, and then did an activity where they created a graphic so that people could see that. So lots of hands-on learning, lots of really good instruction going on in ELA. In math, as you all know, we adopted Savas Envision last year. As in any new program, we had some growing pains because it was entirely different than the program that we had been using. This is as well high-quality instructional material. It's approved by the State Department. Classroom teachers did a great job implementing this new math curriculum. The administrators and the instructional coaches used the IPG, which is the Instructional Practice Guide. It lists several different areas of focus, and so we picked 2 or 3 of those to work on during this school year, and it really strengthened the best practices and the strategies that were implemented. We saw some really good growth on the IPG as far as instruction and student engagement, so we're very excited about that. We are continuing to work with STEM. Blythe Bower was STEM designated last year, and this year we've added Arnold Memorial and Candies Creek Cherokee. They did a lot of work, and they had on-site visits of people that came into their school and looked at all the great things that were going on and then gave them that designation. We have other elementary schools that will be applying next year for STEM designation. Everybody's working really hard, and the students are very engaged in those kind of programs. We also want to celebrate capturing kids' hearts. As you know, that is a focus that we continue to work on. And Arnold Memorial and Mayfield Elementary were recognized as showcase schools this year. So now we have at the elementary level Arnold, Stewart, Blythe Bower, and Mayfield, as well as our middle school and our high school. So we're very excited about that. You can talk to any of the students and they will tell you what it means to be a leader, what it means to be kind to each other. There's some really good morning meetings going on in all of our elementary classrooms. It's just a really good way to start the day, and it's a really good way to let those students feel part and ownership and special. The after-school tutorial program, Adam talked a little bit about the summer school program, but we have a program that goes all year long. It runs 3 days a week, and it's offered in every elementary school. This year it was very well attended, and based on the RTI progress monitoring parts that we completed at the end of the year, we saw some really good growth in those students. So there's lots of students that it is free, and we do provide transportation for those students. So their parents can leave them at school for an hour after school 3 days a week, and they can get some high quality instruction in very small groups, 2 to 3, 4 people at the most in those groups. And the last thing, I just wanted to celebrate a little bit. Dr. Elliott referenced this earlier, but the end of the year is such an exciting time for all of our students and for all of our teachers. And really, our teachers go way above and beyond to offer opportunities for our students beyond academics. Academics are really important, and that's our focus. But when you see these students come to life on the stage, it warms my soul. I took my grandchildren to all of the elementary plays, and they loved them. They are still singing those songs. And if the very top one is Annie, and Stewart did Annie. The one next to Annie is 101 Dalmatians. That was at Candies Creek. The bottom picture is Aladdin, and that was at Arnold. If we go on a little bit, the bottom picture here is the Magic Tree House, and that was performed by E.L. Ross students. The top picture goes to show you that our principals will just do about anything to encourage students to do their very best. This is Kim Bradford at Stewart, as well as Mindy Kaiser, the assistant principal there. And they took an ice bath because they challenged the students in 3rd grade, if they were at school every day for the TCAP test, that they would take an ice bath. And 4th grade almost made it. 5th grade almost made it, but 3rd grade made it. And I'm just going to tell you, the kids were loving it. They were screaming and hollering, and Mrs. Bradford and Mrs. Kaiser were really, really good sports to do that. I can guarantee you those kids are still talking about that. On the next page, this is a program that we do, or an activity that we do in, I think, 3 or 4 of our elementary schools. It's a 2nd grade project. It goes along with our ELA program because we talk about history and we talk about space and different types of careers. This is called the Wax Museum. And you see the first student at the top, he is representing Neil Armstrong. And the one at the bottom is representing George Washington. But the students, each student selects an individual, they research the individual, they present, they get dressed up, and then they stand in the hallway and they have a little dot on their hand, and you come by and you press the dot and they stand up and they tell you about the character that they're representing. Some of the students memorize it. Some of the students read that. The thing I love about this year at Arnold, we had students that did the presentation in Spanish and in English, and all of the classrooms come around to the Wax Museum. And so it was great for some of our newcomers that really struggle with English to be able to go up and push the button of some of the Wax Museum characters and hear in Spanish. And so they knew exactly what was going on. The teachers work really, really hard on this, as you can imagine, to try to get a 2nd grader to pick a person and then research the person and then be able to help them memorize, and then the parents provide the costume. But these 2 students were at Mayfield Elementary School, but we also attended several other wax museums. And so I would encourage you next year, when we get the dates of those, I will send those out for you, because you would be amazed at, we have Michael Jordan and Susan B. Anthony and Mr. Hershey, and they come up with some really cool people. Sally Ride, they come up with some great people in history that they would like to talk about. And the end of the year activities, we've talked about it a little bit. This one is the representation that we had at Lynn's event at the Grants and Gifts. Gifts, Grants, and Gratitude. Thank you very much. These were mini grants that were written by students. We had several students several grants that were represented from Cleveland City Schools, but this is Candice Creek, and they also based their grant around CKLA, and you can see she created the dulcimer, and they have a unit that they do in CKLA, and so all of their activities were around that. And so the kids did a great job presenting. You could go up and you could ask them questions about it. They told you all about it, and then they even told you about making the whatever part of the project they participate in. This is one more fun thing. You know, classroom teachers at the end of the year, it's hard to maintain interest in students. It really, really is hard. After field day, they're just about gone. But these are 2 classes that did a space camp and a camp activity theme. Everything in the campfire, everything, that's the campfire at the bottom, you can see everything in that classroom. All the centers, all the stories, everything dealt with camp activities or camp theme, and the top one was space. And I just had to highlight this because when classroom teachers could be packing up boxes and doing things, getting ready for summer, these teachers were going that extra mile to provide wonderful opportunities for our kids. These both were at Blythe Bower, and some of those students, they were so excited about that. That's a fake fire there, but they were going to make s'mores. They had never made s'mores, and it was so much fun listening to them. And then they did a writing activity to be able to explain to you how to do that. So that's kudos to those people as well. And I think the last one, oh no, here's one more. Field day is so much fun. We all know about field day, so that's a field day. I think that's at Arnold, I think. And the Ross Yates group, they invite all the second grade families to come over and tour Ross so that they're not, that they feel real comfortable when they go the next year. So that was one of those activities, another thing at night that they were doing. Then we had our end of the year, yep, go on, you're good. Okay, this was another activity. This, of course, you see Miss Ingram, we celebrated her. This was Career Day at Yates, above that. And they had a morning, all of our elementary schools do Career Day, but that was one of the fun things they do. And we're moving on back to the end of the year celebrations. The top one is Blythe Bowers, where they celebrate their 5th grade students as they move them on and wish them the best of luck at middle school. And then the bottom picture is E.L. Ross as they do the same thing. And if you see Dr. Barnes, ask him to give you the little wrap that he created specifically and especially for those 5th grade students. And the final thing is our senior walk, and I did this one at Arnold. These are students that they come back to Arnold, and they walk down the hall, and all the students are in the hallway, and they're cheering for them. And they get to see students. As you see, they're high-fiving all the students. And at the bottom, you see Miss Mantooth, and she was hugging all of those kids. There were tears flowing. There was lots of celebration. But it's such a wonderful opportunity for those high school students to come back to the elementary world and to see their teachers. And it's great for those students that are in elementary school to say, I can't wait till I get to do that one day. So just a few things, but lots happens at the end of the year in all schools, but elementary is a very, very busy place. Any questions? Yeah, Peggy.
What is involved in getting a STEM designation for the schools?
Oh, it's very, very complicated. They have a list of criteria that you have to do. The main thing is that it's not a standalone. You have to show that you're implementing all of these strategies in your everyday curriculum. So for a school to receive that designation, once they go through the process and they answer all the questions and they provide all the evidence, then they have to show how those standards are implemented into math class, ELA class, science class. And then they come to the school to be able to see if those things really are happening, and they talk to students. I know that the 2 schools that went through it this year, they had student leaders as guides, and they answered questions for them, but they share a lot of their work, and it's not just 5th grade, it's kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Is there anyone that helps the principals get that organized?
Yes, it works. Mr. Wittenbarger did it this year through CTE, and we pulled all of the technology teachers together. They kind of support each other. The high school had been a really, really good support for them because they received the designation several years ago, and then the middle school supported them as well. And so they kind of were able to see how to do it. We had a couple of schools that went to Blythe Bower because they had done it the year before to make sure that they were on the right track. So we had some teachers that were leading that charge, and then we allowed them to go to other places, to visit other schools that had received that STEM designation, just to make sure they had all their bases covered.
Has Rennie Wittenberger trained anyone else that could assist with that for next year?
We have a really good team. Now we have 4 schools at the elementary level that have received it, and then the middle school and the high school. So I think we have a really good group that can support the other schools as they continue to pursue this.
I think that's really good that y'all are doing that.
It's
Very
great,
helpful.
and the kids they love those projects.
That's
Love
great.
them. Yeah.
Okay.
I will say out of 13, there were 13 STEM designated schools across the state named this year, and 2 of them were from Cleveland City
That's
Schools.
good.
A lot of work went
A lot of
into
work,
it.
a lot of work and
work.
dedication, but it's paying off for our
It
students.
sounds like it's well worth it.
Man, the kids love it. They love that project-based learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. And Dr. Kars is going to come and share an update on her work this year. She came on board this year as our well-being specialist and done a lot of good work. Sometimes some of the work is behind the scenes getting us organized and going forward. So I've asked her, she's going to share a little bit.
Yeah, so I am Alicia Kars, and just to give you a little my background, this was my 15th year in Cleveland City. So I started as a science teacher at the high school, and then I transitioned over to Stewart Elementary as an instructional coach. And then I transitioned from that position into, I can call myself the first ever assistant principal at Stewart and Arnold Elementary. And so I did that position for about 6 years. And then this year, like Dr. Elliott said, I've moved into this position as the district's well-being specialist. And so I appreciate y'all giving me a few minutes to talk with you and bring in some information to you. Like Dr. Elliott said, we've really been hard at work this year getting this off the ground, but a lot of it has been behind the scenes.
And just out of an introduction, will you share, I know you recently received your doctorate.
I
So
did.
what was your doctorate in?
Yeah, my doctorate it's a doctorate of education, but it's in community care and counseling in the field of traumatology, which is the study of trauma. So yes, I did just finish that, and I'm so glad it's over. So I'm so happy to have it. So our district was awarded a grant last July. It's called the Stronger Connections Grant. And that grant has really 4 main focus areas. The demand for student support in these areas, specifically behavior and mental health, has steadily been increasing over many years, but especially since the pandemic. I could provide you with an abundance of statistical data that would show the necessity for these supports in our school systems, but I will give you 2. According to the CDC, 1 in 6 children between the ages of 2 and 8 have been diagnosed with a mental, behavioral, or developmental disorder. And in 2021, suicide was the 2nd leading cause of death among adolescents. These 4 main focus areas are all within the context of mental health, social, emotional, and behavioral support. My role as the well-being specialist is to oversee all 4 of these areas to make sure that our system is effective in providing interventions in these areas, to make sure that we're not duplicating our services, to phase out things that are ineffective and don't work, and to make sure that every student is responding positively to the things that we're implementing. So the first area, of course, is our students. Go ahead. Thank you. So the largest effort in this focus area of student support is the development and organization of a behavior and mental health side of what we call a multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS for short. An MTSS is an approach that uses tiered instruction and intervention to provide support for academics, for behavior, social emotional skills, and for mental health. In our district in Cleveland City School, the academics arm, or the academic side of that framework, is very robust and very well established. However, the behavior, the social emotional, the mental health components are not as organized and are not as well developed. So this kind of gives you a picture of what it looks like when we say a tiered intervention of supports. The main focus in providing this kind of intervention, or providing it in this manner, is that we focus primarily on Tier 1, which is the bottom of that triangle. This is considered universal support. So this is everything we do for every student that walks through our buildings in the area of behavior, social and emotional, and mental health support. It builds the foundation for positive behavior. It equips students with the skills necessary to be able to function in the school environment. Data, lots of data, and lots of problem-solving teams come together to decide then who might need additional, more targeted, and more intensive support beyond what is provided to every student. The grant has given us the resources we need to improve these areas, including the ability to compensate 2 school-level staff members who are working closely with me to kind of oversee and implement the monitoring of all of these different tiered interventions. This school year, our primary focus and effort has been specifically on Tier 1, also known as those universal supports. But as we continue to move through the next 2 years, which is what the grant is funding, we are going to fold in looking at Tier 2 and Tier 3 as well. Okay. So an example of a Tier 1 universal support that we were able to provide to all of our K-5 students this year is the Calming Corner. So Calming Corners are spaces within the classroom that students can utilize to manage their stress and support their emotional regulation. The goal over time is that students will learn how to recognize when they are experiencing anxiety or frustration or any other type of distressing emotion, and they will use the Calming Corner as a tool to support their own self-regulation. So this picture shows you an example of what a Calming Corner might look like. They can look different, but the Calming Corner provides the students with tools. You can see she's got some stuff in her hands, like little fidget tools. Our Calming Corners, what we were able to do with the grant is I was able to work with all of the school counselors at the elementary level, and they were able to provide a list of items to me that best matched the needs of their students in their building, and we were able to outfit those Calming Corners for every elementary school. Lauren Lastoria, who is the 6th grade counselor at the middle school, she got wind that money was being given out. And so she contacted me and she said, I really want to do this for our 6th graders. So I'm happy to say that starting next school year, 6th grade will also be implementing Calming Corners for their classrooms. And in our PDs, Miss Raper and Miss Miles got really excited too. And so they've hit me up and they're like, we got to do something in 7th and 8th grade. So it sounds like all K through 8 students will have access to this tool in some form or fashion to support stress relief, anxiety reduction, and emotion regulation. Okay. So a big part of behavior support and social emotional support is being proactive and taking the time to teach our students the skills, the social and emotional skills that they need to be able, honestly, not just to function in school, but to function in life. And so this is another example of a Tier 1 universal support. So in our elementary schools, our school counselors play a huge role in doing this for our K-5 students. Our elementary schools are currently using evidence-based programs to do this, such as, for example, one that's commonly used is called the Zones of Regulation. And so these programs are teaching students self-regulation skills, distress tolerance, etc. Currently, we do not have an evidence-based curriculum to teach and reinforce those types of skills for our middle school and high school students. However, we took note of that, and with the funding from the grant, we are able to adopt this curriculum called DBT in schools for our 6 through 12 students. It will be specifically incorporated into our 7th grade health classes and into our 9th grade wellness classes because it fits nicely into their standards. We've had school counselors, myself, Miss Laura Vacheras, our crisis counselor, and the health and wellness teachers involved have all gone or will go through training by the company that wrote the curriculum. Wrote the curriculum. We are working as a team to collaborate and create PowerPoints and things to go with the lesson plans to make it engaging for the kids. But I am happy to say that our 7th graders and our 9th graders will be explicitly taught these social and emotional skills starting next school year. Okay. And as we know, there are some students who that tier 1, that foundation, is just not enough. They have more intensive mental health and behavioral health needs. And so because of that, Cleveland City Schools has recognized that, and we've entered a partnership with Centerstone to be able to provide school-based therapy services to our students. School-based therapy has been proven to reduce common barriers to consistent mental and behavioral health treatment, such as lack of transportation, inflexible work schedules, and just the general disruption to the child's school day. We did start the process in March with Blythe Bauer and Cleveland High School, and currently right now, 24 students are being served by a mental health therapist. What's great about that is it doesn't stop when school stops because the therapist works year-round. So I'm happy to know that 24 of our kids are getting help this summer, even though school is not in session. When we return in August, we will begin opening up that referral process to the remainder of our schools. Right now, we have a prediction of about 65 referrals that we will probably have as soon as the doors open back up in August. Thanks. All right, for our staff. So to support those school level coaches that I mentioned earlier, and myself, our district has acquired some coaching support from the Tennessee Tiered Support Center. And we have Jessica Eschbaugh and Ashley Smethers, who are, I call them our people, to help us. And they've provided us with professional development this year and just consistent support, mostly for me, all throughout the year, specifically in those Tier 1 practices. Another opportunity that we're able to provide because of the grant is a training for school and district administration in the neurosequential model in education. This is a research and evidence-based training that was developed by a very well-known child psychiatrist and expert in childhood trauma, Dr. Bruce Perry, who, so cool, lives in Chattanooga now, which I just found out. Dr. Danielle Scarth is a certified trainer in this program, and so she's able to provide this training to a cohort of 8 district and school administrators that I believe they're starting soon if they haven't already. Yep.
We started today.
Started today. Great. And then we have enough funding to send a second cohort for the next year. Okay. And then for more training for our staff, we have 2 different opportunities. We have the ability to offer what's called Youth Mental Health First Aid as a professional development opportunity. This is a research-based program. The grant was able to fund me to go through the training, so I'm a certified trainer in Youth Mental Health First Aid. This program teaches adults who work with youth how to recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health challenges and how to connect those youth with professional help. I have already trained all of the Bradley County, McMinn, Ray County health department educators. I have, on July 16th, we have about 30 staff members that have expressed interest and are going to be trained. And our hope and the plan is to offer this to our families throughout the school year. And so I've already had quite an interest from family members and caregivers to receive this training. And the grant is allowing us to do that at no cost to those people. And then recently, we had our inaugural Trauma-Equipped Teacher Summit in partnership and collaboration with Lee. We did our first one 2 weeks ago. We had about 60 teachers attend. It was incredible. It was a wonderful day. Of course, I love to survey people. I want feedback, right? I want to know what did we do right and what can we do better. And the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, incredible. And so we're actually having the second training, that second go around tomorrow. So like Adam, this is your official invitation. Please join us tomorrow if you can, even if it's just for a session or two or just to hop in and see the teachers. I provided you with a schedule of events so that if you'd like to attend, you're welcome to. Please come by. All right. And then our families. So as I mentioned, these are, you have to, yeah, that works. Thank you. So as I mentioned, the Youth Mental Health First Aid course, we want to make that available to our families. We are also, because of the grant funding, we are going to be offering in the 24-25 school year a mental health webinar series. So we are going to have a live webinar 4 times throughout the school year, hosted by licensed mental health therapists on different topics. One of those topics, just off the top of my head, we're going to be offering to parents is learning about your child's anxiety. What does that mean, and how do I deal with that as a parent? Another one we're offering is social media, how to guard your child and support your child through the use of social media. I'm happy to say that we're offering these sessions in both English and Spanish so that all of our families are able to participate. We had a community wellness showcase in conjunction with kindergarten registration. We had close to 30 mental health providers come out. Our families were able to meet those people and those providers and get valuable information. We also handed out at that event 30 steel alloy combination safes to promote and educate parents on the safety of storing and locking up your medication. And I was just amazed at how receptive our families were to that. They went like hotcakes, and in fact, I've had requests for safes after the fact, so I'm working to maybe get us some more funding so we can provide those. And then a huge benefit from the grant was we were able to hire a part-time family engagement coordinator for Cleveland Middle School. That was something, we have those positions at the elementary, and we have an individual who does a lot of that work for the high school, but there was just a gap at the middle school. And so Mr. Adam Jones took that position, and he's incredible. Now, I don't know if you want to chime in on that.
He's incredible.
He's incredible. Yeah, he's great.
No, he's connected us to several different facets of our community that we didn't have access to before.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And then lastly on this slide, I just want to make you aware that we have included a lot of resources on our Cleveland City School website. When I took this position, that was one of the things that I went to the website and I said, what's on there currently? And it was pretty bare. I was like, we got this, right? So if you go to the website, you will see listed under the resources for mental health, we have a ton of information, including, hey, thank you. It's under families. And then mental health resources. So what I love about this is that as a parent, if you come here, first of all, you can see a directory to your school counselor. So you don't have to guess, who is my student's school counselor? You can come here, click on the school, and it has their name and contact information. Notice to the left where it says, you don't have to click on it, Cody, but it says Community Resource Directory. That is a very, very lengthy document that was provided by the Interagency Council that lists every possible community resource that we have in the Bradley-Cleveland community for food, housing, job placement, mental health, etc. And that is there for our families, and in addition to some additional resources as well. So the last focus area is just for our schools overall and enhancing positive climate and culture. So our effort there was Dr. Danielle Scarth and Laura Hudson. They led the Strong Minds, Strong Community endeavor this school year to support our staff in building positive habits in promoting physical and mental health. We had over 80 staff members participate in the events. They had like contests each month. And the 3 staff members that are pictured here, they won the award for having the most entries. And so they have their little plaque to designate that. Okay. Thank you all. Do you all have any questions for me?
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I'm so incredibly impressed with this program. and so glad that you're doing it. I know how important it is. To what do you attribute the increase in mental health problems in our students
goodness.
today all over the country?
We don't have enough time.
I know.
We just don't. So one of the things that we've talked a lot about, and I'm obviously very passionate about this, right, personally and professionally, but one of the things, the message, I guess you could say, that we're trying to spread to our staff, our administration just went, we've been through several trainings, but the message of the true impact of childhood adversity. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, but there is very clear research that connects the experience of childhood adversity, specifically in 10 specific areas, and negative health outcomes, both physically and for mental health. So I think a big role that we're educators, right? And so I think putting a focus on education, on helping our families understand that there's a root cause, and that we may not be able to, there's no panacea necessarily, but education goes a long way. And so I can't begin to answer your question, what that one thing is, but I can tell you there's very clear research that there is a big connection between childhood adversity and what we're seeing in the classrooms.
We used to have access to more mental health facilities in the past, and we haven't had those for a few years, so it's wonderful that things are coming back, that we can address these problems and these issues.
Yeah. I'm very proud of us because this is not something we can do on our own, just within ourselves. We have to form partnerships, and it truly does take a village.
Well, I'll be anxious to be hearing more about how things are going.
Anything else?
Thanks again for this important work you're doing.
That's great.
It'll be interesting to see how this all lands and the impact you're having. So I know this is near and dear to your heart.
It is. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate your work.
Yeah.
I do have one more question. You said this is a grant.
It is.
Is this something you have to apply for every year?
So it's funded for 3 years. This was year one, so we have the funding for 2 more years. It's a federal grant through the federal government. So I don't know what will happen at the end of 3 years if
Not sure yet.
the federal
The
government
verdict's
will
still
put something back out. We're not the only school system that was awarded. Do you remember, Dr.
There were
Elliott?
18 in the state of Tennessee.
18 in the
18
state
in
of
the
Tennessee.
state.
That's right.
State, and we were one of them.
Any close to here?
Can't remember if there's any in the southeast region or not.
I don't think in the southeast
think
region.
in
I
the
think the
southeast
closest is going to be toward Nashville.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
So I don't know. Beyond the next 2 years, who's to say?
And did you do the application for it?
I wish I could say that I did, but I did not.
This came out of a needs assessment that we did with our teachers 2 years ago in 2021 and 2022. And one of the things that rose to the top that we were hearing from teachers are those students who are these behavior situations in the classroom, and how we can help the teachers out with that. So the intentionality of this work, sometimes we want a quick fix, and we'd love to be able to do that, and sometimes we can do that, but other times it's good. We got to lay the groundwork and see the longevity of it, and I believe this is the vision as you see working out right now to be able, because we want to keep our students in the classroom and give them the supports they need, because if the students are present in the classroom, our teachers can provide that quality
Who all wrote up the
instruction.
grant? Who could we say thank you to?
Ms. Bender helped me, and along with
Dr. Scarth, I believe.
Dr. Scarth, I believe was it.
And you worked on it.
And and he won't give himself credit, but Dr. Elliott.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had the vision for that, and we still see the need to help our teachers out, and most importantly, our students in this endeavor.
Another question. You had mentioned you did some training for other schools?
I have in the past, yes.
Oh, that wasn't recent? Like, I thought you mentioned.
Oh, I did. It was for the health departments in the southeast region. Yeah, so each health department has like a health educator, and so yes, I trained all of them in youth mental health first aid.
So you're becoming the local resident expert?
I I don't know about that, but.
That's great. No, that's awesome. She does a great job.
I always say if anybody will give me a platform and a stage to talk about ACEs and trauma, I'll do it. So, yeah. Thank
Your
you.
recent workshop or this thing
Yes.
got rave reviews from
Thank you.
people I talked to.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited for tomorrow. Please, if you have the time to stop by. I've never seen happier teachers. It was just a great
Came out of
day.
that day last, in the end of May was.
It was an
amazing
incredible
to be
day.
there. Looking
Mhm.
forward to tomorrow.
Yeah.
What time does it start tomorrow?
I
Doesn't
think,
say.
does it?
8:45.
Yeah, on the very
That's
front
what I
page.
said, 8.
Mhm.
Around 8:45,
Yeah.
it'll kick off. We'll do an
Good
introduction.
question. It is at Lee University in the Humanities Building. So if you just come in the main entrance of Humanities, we're mostly on the first floor. There might be a couple sessions on the second floor. The room locations are on the insert inside the pamphlet. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Carter.
Thank you all.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have student representative update, and we don't have student representatives with us today, so
But
we're
one has
going
been
to, do we, I guess the question do we have a student representative
We do have a student.
assigned? Do you want to announce
His
that
name
now?
is Jackson Arizon. I'm
Jackson
sure I'm
Arizon.
saying the name wrong.
Finding that out, so.
It was right?
You're welcome then.
Was it Jackson West?
If you don't mind, if you can send that to all the board members
Yes,
with the
I
bio.
just got that today.
That'd be great. All right, so we're going to skip that update, and we're going to move into the next agenda item, which is Facilities Committee update.
All right, Mr. Hal Taylor is going to present a summary of Facilities Committee we held back in May 16th over at Raider Drive, and Hal's going to give us a summary of that, Mr. Taylor.
All right. One thing, we'll start off with the fun part first, the voting item, and that was that as project manager, we started a little different situation. I'm going to go into it just a little bit. I know it's been a long night, but there were some questions came with the city council, so I thought it's probably history you need to know that most of the members haven't dealt with. Used to use construction management here for a number of years, and when they did the science wing in 2010, they moved from construction management to traditional bidding, but they added a project manager that actually answers to you, the school board. So the project manager becomes your voice, and that's a little different than what most systems do. But as that project manager, I took that position in addition to my regular duties. I do that position and with both the arena and Candies Creek and any other projects we have. And what that does is that allows me to work with the contractor and the architect and help in making sure that we are getting what we are asking both of those parties for. In that process, there is for contingency that's already set aside. This is not new money, but for contingency that's set aside as project manager, a lot of times if a contractor comes back, there's an increased cost that needs to be taken out of that contingency, then as the representative for the school board, the project manager is the one who makes that call for that increased cost. Back when they first did this, it was $5,000 for the science wing. It's never been increased since then, and I will tell you that there's quite a few times you run into issues, and it can actually hold up a job. And if it holds up a job, then you can't get onto the contractor for being late and get liquidated damages. So what we need to do is probably raise that from $5,000 to $25,000. So we took that to the site committee, and the site committee has already voted on that. So that's what I'm here today. The first issue, the first thing we would talk about today would be the site committee voted to raise that. So I'll refer that back to Mr. Lay to handle at this point for a vote.
Yeah, so on May 16th, there was a motion to approve Hal Taylor as project manager and to include the change in paragraph number 4, increasing authority to approve change orders from $5,000 to $25,000.
So we have this recommendation from the Facilities Committee. It doesn't need a first, but we do need a second. We have a second.
Can a facilities committee member second it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that one, but probably not.
Yeah, I'm on the facilities committee too.
So it would be up to the three of
I'll
us.
second that with some discussion.
Okay, have questions or comments?
Is that limited to a particular project or is that across the board? Can you provide some greater context on
It's pretty much, it's just been the same phrase put in by each of the projects. Typically, it's put into the larger projects, the full bid projects. Typically, they're $1 million or more. But it's put into each of our architects. Anytime he sets one, he puts that in there. And it's been, like I said, the 5,000 has been just a standard amount they went with.
So how did we come up with 25,000 as the recommendation?
We often get it with construction costs compared to what it was then and what it is now. That was a guess back then. Basically, it's something, and we often get those types of incidents. When you're doing construction, especially anything where you start talking millions, you'll often have something that was not seen, and that's what the contingency money's there for. So it falls into that contingency money area, and in order to keep the job going, we've run into that, and we've actually, the reason I'm bringing it to you is because we have had problems with that before in the past, and we want to make sure that as we're moving forward, we don't have any delays. Equipment's getting expensive. We also are doing things differently. We're not bidding necessarily everything out that we were. We're actually buying some equipment direct, which saves us money. And so that allows us to, if we have something that they missed, like at Blythe Bower, they missed some dampers that were actually in the equipment. So we had to look at that at contingency. And so that's what you're getting into. It's just 5,000 doesn't buy anything in construction near what it used to. And so that's where that's coming from.
Is that, I keep calling it per project, but are you saying that you would have then a $25,000 authority for the entire Candies Creek project, or per change order?
Per.
Is there any cap or requirement that you come back if there's multiple change orders at, those begin to add up? So
Oh,
if
yeah,
there's multiple change orders, how does that get applied across the board?
It just gets applied that it has to be coming from the contingency funds. I can't increase the total project cost. It only comes from what's in the contingency. At this point, that's not been talked about. That could be something we could add to it. It might be a good idea. Because it's always just been a little at a time. Where we ran into a lot of issues and there was a lot of contention with the contractors was on the arena. That was a very, I'll just say, stressful project. And there was constantly, our update meetings every 2 weeks was very difficult. So in that situation, we were, and we had a very low contingency. And I guess that's where we didn't really ever consider cap, because we didn't ever let them. I think that's also been it. We don't really give away contingency. We've been very good about coming under and maintaining probably, would I be fair in saying 70% of our contingency most of the time with our projects? We very seldom use the full amount of contingency. So that hasn't been an issue to this point, but I think, really valid concern, about.
So for context, thinking about Raider Drive, what was the budget amount, and then what was the contingency amount for that project?
That changes a lot. Typically, you want to run like a 5% contingency, but sometimes we'll run as low as 3 or 2. We don't typically run a high. So on Raider Drive, I think we have. Can I use the front entrance? The front entrances were $2 million, and I think we had. On that one, we had like 100,000 in contingency. That one I just remember off the top of my head. So,
are you referring to the front of CHS?
Yeah, the CTE and the CHS. So, for instance, and we did run into some issues over there at times. And we didn't have any one big one, but we did have several smaller projects we had to do and had to take out of that.
So let's assume you go over the contingency, amount, then what's the next step?
Well, anything on contingency would have to come back to you.
Yes.
And that's where when we get into these projects, the facilities meetings and the monthly updates get important to come back to you and keep you all informed on what's going on.
That's just kind of, I can see how that triggers out. It'd be nice to know, I mean, if we're looking at well, back to the Raider Drive property, it's a $4 million project, contingency at 5%, my math isn't so good. $100,000?
Yeah.
Was that the contingency?
I think it was less that because we only bid the construction part. So we only have an operating budget of about $3 million total there. So we ended up with, I think 1.2, 1.3 for the actual construction. And Brian did have a little larger contingency because there was a lot of unknowns. Right now, I think on Raider Drive, so far we're maybe 15,000 into the contingency spent.
And none of that's used for any of the infrastructure. We're talking sticks, mortar, paint.
Right, well, yeah.
Not chairs, furniture.
So let me give you an example. On Raider Drive, we ran into a problem with the state and the elevator. So we actually did work we had to go back and have undone because the state was going to be so difficult, and what they were requesting of us with the elevator was going to cost additional funds, and it didn't make sense for the gain we were going to get. We were going to keep one sink and one urinal and have to spend $70,000 on the elevator. It's a long story, I won't bore you with it. But, so what we did is I went back and we approved the contingency. We had to go back and we had to approve the contingency to go remove those items and restructure that part of the bid. And what that did is that allowed us to keep going and moving the bid, because it meant redoing some of the fixtures, and they actually put a stop on the fixtures till we gave them the okay. And so that's where it comes in, being able to make those decisions.
And is the site committee then, I guess at some point, voting or approving what those contingencies are in any particular project?
Haven't been really, just been getting informed on them. As long as it stays under the money they approved for the job.
Good. Any other questions, comments? So we have the recommendation from the Facilities Committee, and it's been second. I'd like to do a roll call.
Motion to approve the project manager approval increase from 5,000 to 25,000. Jody?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Carolyn is absent. Krista?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
Peggy?
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you. Want to update you on a few other things that we have going on. It gets easier from after that one. So, just so you know, we just got Ross started back up on Friday. So we got the switch gear at Ross changed out last week. They started it on Friday. They finished it today. So that's good news. We're back up and going at Ross. We don't have to worry about the power going out and being stranded for several months without power. Construction on Candies Creek will start Wednesday. We'll start excavating. The contracts have been signed. All that's in place. The painting of CHS and Stewart are underway. They've made very good progress. Talked to some folks at Stewart today. They're happy with what's going on there. We're working on changes to the Denning Center to a family resource center. Dr. Elliott, you want to address that one, or anything? We're just working on that.
We have a gentleman from the state going to meet with us to give us some guidance in July, coming to meet with us.
Bids and contracts have been signed for the football stadium lighting and CT electrical service, which will be getting underway. We're still waiting on some equipment that's being ordered, hopefully within the next 2 weeks on the stadium lighting. We will begin moving into, Dr. Elliott said earlier, into the central support building next week, and we are still on track to have the boardroom and lobby finished by July 1st. We'll still have a number of small projects to continue even after we start moving in, but I do feel like we're going to be well in our in a very good situation to invite people to our central support building for in August for guests and so forth. So I think we're well on our way. I still think we look pretty good to keep moving, and that we'll be in good shape with that. So, and that's my report for today.
We don't have a school board meeting in July, do we?
No.
No.
All right, is that all?
That's it.
Oh, okay. Good deal.
All right, so any more questions or comments for Hal? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, it looks like the last thing on our agenda is the legislative update, and Ms. Ingram is not here, so we'll move along to any new business, new comments I want to talk about the board, for board members. Anything? All right, so it is 7:20, and I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn this meeting. We got a first, we got a second. Any opposed?